Let's see here. I like to be able to do this without having to go to the hardware store to get more items. Might have enough here in the scrap pile. Let's see here. Past year or two, I've been working on various projects and various builds here in this area. And I'm not sure if it was laziness or convenience or a combination of both. But all the scrap material that I had left over from those projects, well, I just stacked them over here. And gradually it's become scrap wood pile, as well as other various items that we've had surplus of are left over here as well. Because I'm like, I could use those materials one day. And today might be one of those days. I don't need this piece for the project today, but I can use this for another upcoming project. So let's set this aside. Over here. All right. Yep, see what we can find for today's project. All right, let's see what else we got. This here too will work for that other project. Put that over there too. And this one. And now we're finding more for the other project than the one for today. Got pressure treated wood here, as well as cedar wood here, and some of the pine wood. Probably just burn that up. Oh, here we go. And this is some that I stained. I prefer to not use pressure treated wood whenever that's possible. I prefer to use cedar, to be honest with you, but it is expensive. Let me tell you, that's some expensive wood. But it is really good. Naturally pest and rot resistant, but like I said, it's pretty expensive. So I will use pine, but for those of you who are familiar with wood and working with them outside, pine can rot and bugs can get to them easier. But if you use the Suzuki bond technique, like I used on this scrap wood left over from, let's see, we did a number of projects with the Suzuki bond technique. Let's see, I built a Justin Rhodes inspired chicken tractor using pine wood with the Suzuki bond technique, and I also built his turkey shawl with using that technique as well. And this leftover piece here we can use for our project for today. Hey Micah, will you put that in the smaller gorilla cart there?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, man.
You're welcome.
Now I admit, I am not naturally a builder. I just don't have that mindset naturally where I can just come up with something poop out of my mind and just be able to build it just like that. And I just don't feel gravitated to just constantly build things. I don't know, some of you may have that, but not me. If you do, let me know. I'd like to know in the comment section below. Also, if you're more like me, let me know in the comment section below too. Because I'm just the type of person that, for me to come up with and build something, man, it just requires a lot of energy, a lot of thought to be able to build something. So I'm one of those people that is really thankful when people share plans on how to build things. Like, for example, Joel Salatin has a book called Polyface Designs, which has a number of different detailed plans on how to build various projects around the farm. And one of the designs that I built from that book was a shield to go over the livestock waters for chickens and ducks. It allows them to be able to drink out of the water without getting into it and making a mess. So that way you don't have to constantly be cleaning their water. That comes in handy. But there's a lot of other just big projects in there that I know a lot of people aren't at that scale. But recently, Justin Rhodes came out with his that is more suitable for people who are doing things on a homestead scale. And I've also built a number of projects from that one as well, including his chicken shawl. We did that this past year. Boys and I worked on putting that together, as well as the turkey shawl. Pieces like this hardware cloth here and some of these items are from those projects and others. We can use those for our project today.
This do not look useful at all.
Nope. That one right there, we can just take to a pile and burn that one. Yep, we're not going to recycle that one at all. We got these, the leftover cedar. Use those today. Alright, right here we have pine starting to rot a little bit. Here we have a cedar. Pine's pretty much not useful, but the cedar is. This we're setting aside for our expansion project. That's for another time. Good on that. For a number of years now, I've lived in this yurt with my wife and kids. And during these years, as our farm has been growing, well, our family has been growing too. And we're at the point now where we need to expand our living and working spaces. And God willing, we plan to do that this year. And that little scrap wood that I gathered, well, it's going to provide just a tiny percentage of what I need to get started with that. But it will come in handy. We'll put it to use here pretty soon. But over the next weeks and months ahead, I need to start acquiring and buying a lot more so that way we can expand those spaces. But not today. Not getting started with that quite yet. Back at the scrap and junk pile, I had this old metal table that I decided to use to help organize the scrap wood that we have over here. This isn't our only wood stack here. We do have an official wood stack with better wood that we keep protected from the weather. This is just our scrap wood. So let's put some of this here on this table. Repurpose it just to keep it off the ground. Oh, instead of just throwing our scrap pieces down, put them in here. There we go. Let's see here. So we'll put that like that. Let's go. There. And even though I really appreciate polyface designs as well as homestead builds, as well as others who share their plans, well, after having done this now for around 15 plus years, you kind of figure out, well, there's some things that I like about that design and there's some things that I don't. For example, Joel Salatin's chicken tractors are pretty big and they've been too big for my context. So I've had to sink my chicken tractors down closer to Justin Rose's size. But there's some things that I didn't like about his, like the main door to open up the chicken tractor. Well, it extends through the whole chicken tractor, and when I did that build, I noticed that chickens were jumping out on me, and I'm like, well, if you have the door or it's two separate doors that open up like I did on my design, you don't have that happening. So I decided, instead of having one big door that extends the whole chicken tractor, to have two separate doors on top. So that way you're less likely to have them jump out on you. Another really neat chicken tractor design that I like is John Siskovich. His chicken tractors are taller where you can easily walk inside of them and tend to the chickens. I made a version of one of these here on my homestead, and I actually have an idea of how to modify it even more, but that's for later. But right now I need something smaller, because unexpectedly I had a mama duck hatch out some baby ducklings here recently. That usually doesn't happen at this time of year. So currently in my chicken tractors right now, I have pullets that I'm raising to get ready for to be layers this coming year. And those baby ducklings I had to put in one of our tractors, our bigger tractors, and they don't need that much space. Besides, I need that tractor space so that way I can separate the pullets because there's too many in this one. So I gotta build something separately for these ducklings so that way I can separate the pullets ASAP. So that's what we're working on now. This is a 2x4 that is actually 2x4, 4 inches wide. There we go. Not like the shortened hardware box store wood that you see mostly today. None of them actually measure 2x4 like they used to. So as I was working on this mini chicken tractor, actually I think that's what I might call it, the mini tractor, the scrap hardware cloth that I had from the junk pile just happened to fit almost perfectly. And then once I saw that, I started connecting the cut pieces of wood with the help of some of my kids to start putting this thing together. And as we continued, this thing started taking shape. When we first started on this tractor, it felt pretty decent outside, but it gradually got colder and colder. So after cutting some of the cedar pieces, I took some of those scrap pieces and some of the rotting pine pieces and I started a fire. And I pulled the tractor out of the shade and into the sun closer to our fire so that way we could stay a little bit more comfortable as we continue to work on this project. Next, I added a few more pieces to stabilize it. And then after that, it was time to put on the hardware cloth. And based on some really good advice that I got from my father-in-law, instead of hammering in staples or anything like that, to secure the hardware cloth, we use screws with washers on there. So that way, just in case we make any mistake or we want to make some changes or at some point we decide to disassemble this thing, instead of having to try to squeeze out staples, it's so much easier to just unscrew them and take them off or make your adjustments accordingly.
Grab a screw.
So with that, Micah set me up with the screws and washers and I screw those in, attaching our hardware cloth to the frame of our tractor. After all that, it came time to put on our metal siding. And this siding is important because it helps to keep the birds protected from the weather, as well as it provides them with a place that they can retreat to and feel safe in, away from predators and other things that cause them stress. Bam. Just like that. Back. And going into this project, I didn't realize that this was the only metal cutting blade that I had available. I was like, oh, I really don't want to have to run to the store. The day's almost over with. Let's just see how far we can push this blade and see if we can get all these pieces cut. Now for the last cut. But this is all I have left. I really don't want to run out. Think you can do it. It's got just that little bit there, just that little bit. All right, let's see who do it. Come on, you can do it. A little bit more. Just kind of went over that. Try to go back. Come on, blade, hang in there. Come on. Let's just get more, Daddy. Come on. Yeah, almost there. Almost there. We did it! And whoo! I didn't look like we were gonna make it there for a little bit, but we got all the pieces cut. Just barely. And our tractor is almost done. But regretfully, we weren't able to get it completed before the day was over with. So I'm gonna have to come back to that tractor, finish it up, so we can move our birds, because they really need to be moved. So I'm just gonna have to come back to it another time.